You never really expect the smallest person in the room to be the one who changes everything. Not during brunch, not during the holidays, not in front of 20 relatives clinking their glasses and pretending everything is fine. But that's exactly what happened. And it wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It wasn't even dramatic. It was a box. A box held by a 7-year-old girl with curls bouncing over her shoulders, wearing a gold dress she picked herself, clutching it like a secret. That box didn't explode, didn't shout, but it broke something far more fragile than glass. It shattered the illusion my mother in law had spent decades building, an illusion of control, of composure, of being the matriarch everyone revered. With one gift, my daughter dismantled it all, quietly, clearly, unapologetically. But this story doesn't start at the table. It starts long before that, with every ignored glance, every forgotten invitation, every gift that wasn't wrapped with care. It starts with a family that believed blood was everything and a little girl who proved otherwise. Let me take you back to the beginning. When I first met Travis, I was cautious. It wasn't because of him. He was patient, grounded, the kind of man who didn't flinch when life got messy. It was because I wasn't coming into the relationship alone. I had a daughter, Zia, and loving me meant loving her fully and without exception. Travis didn't hesitate. From the first day he met her, he bent down to her level and asked what her favorite animal was. She told him it was a baby tiger. He called her Cub after that. It stuck. In less than a year, he was doing school pickups, bandaging scraped knees, memorizing bedtime stories. When we got married, he asked if he could adopt her legally. I said yes through tears. We were a family, our way, complete. But his family, they saw differently. His mother, Lorraine, had the kind of presence that filled every room before she entered it. She was the sort of woman who made traditions feel like law. Christmas dinner happened at 4 p.m. sharp. Gifts were color-coded. Appetizers were assigned. She wore pearls even when hosting barbecue. She had a freezer full of casseroles for unexpected guests, though no one was ever unexpected. Control was her love language, and if you didn't speak it, you weren't fluent in her version of family. At first, I tried. I truly did. I baked her recipes, wore the polite smiles, laughed when she made remarks about how things were done in our family. I didn't challenge the little digs. I was new. I wanted to belong. She even acted like she accepted Zia on the surface. A card here, a small gift there. But it was always just enough to say I tried, never enough to say, you matter. Zia was 2 when Travis entered our lives. She was 4 when he adopted her. And she was 5 when she noticed she wasn't invited to her cousin's sleepover. Maybe they didn't have enough pillows, she whispered to me that night. I lied, told her maybe it was an accident, told her maybe grandma just forgot. But I didn't believe it, not for a second. Holidays became harder. One Thanksgiving, Lorraine gave every grandchild a plate with their name painted in gold cursive. Maddie, Jonah, Lucy. Zia got the floral one from the back of the cabinet. She turned to me and whispered, I think this one's pretty too. I smiled through the ache in my chest. That night, I told Travis she sees it. Even if you don't want to admit it, she sees it. He stayed silent. Sometimes silence hurts more than words. We kept going to the events, every holiday, every brunch, every orchestrated gathering where everything looked perfect and felt hollow. I told myself we were doing it for Zia, for the chance to grow up with cousins, to have memories that weren't colored by rejection. But in doing that, I was teaching her something. I didn't mean to, that you stay quiet when you are hurt, as long as the people hurting you are family. That love to be kept must be earned. That some people will never see you unless you make them uncomfortable. It's a lie, and it's a dangerous one. Travis began to notice more, the missed invitations, the careless comments. At Jonah's birthday party, Lorraine gave all the kids cupcakes topped with their initials in frosting. Zia got the leftover half-frosted no letter, just a paper liner and crumbs. She didn't say anything, just picked at it quietly. That night, after she was asleep, Travis asked me, "Do you think she notices?" I looked at him, heart tired. "She's 7, not stupid." He said nothing for a long time. Then quietly, "I'll take care of it." The next morning, he handed me a small red box. "For the day she sees it too clearly," he said. "If Lorraine ever does it again, really does it, Zia gets to give her this." Inside were her adoption papers, a family photo, and a letter. "You're giving that power to a 7-year-old?" I asked. "No," he said. "I'm giving her the right to speak for herself and to know she's backed." It was the first time I saw him drawing a line not for me, but for our daughter. It was the first time he chose clarity over comfort. And then came that Christmas. Zia wanted to wear the gold dress again, the one with sequins and a tulle skirt that flared when she twirled. She paired it with sparkly tights and a clip shaped like a star. She asked to carry the box. "I just want to be ready," she said. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. We arrived. Everything was perfect, of course. The table looked like a holiday ad. Lorraine greeted the other kids with loud kisses and velvet pouches. When she turned to Zia, she said, "Oh, you look festive." She took the little painted trinket box Zia made in art class and placed it on the side table without looking inside. No thank you, no smile. Just dismissal. After dinner, it was time for gifts. Lorraine handed out an iPad to Maddie, a new gaming console for Jonah, silver charm bracelets for Lucy. Everyone clapped. Everyone laughed. Then she turned to Zia and held out a small bag. "I didn't want you to feel completely left out," she said. Inside was a candle. Lavender. The label read, "To Travis's girl." No tag, no note. Just that. Zia looked at it, turned it in her hands, said thank you. But I saw it. The flicker behind her eyes, the slow closing off, the breath held too long. And I knew. It was time. I don't know if Zia planned it for that exact moment. Maybe it was instinct. Or maybe it was something deeper, something in her bones that told her enough was enough. After the gifts were passed around, after the champagne flutes were refilled, and the laughter returned like a well rehearsed choir, she stood up. No one noticed at first. She wasn't loud. She didn't ask for attention. She didn't clear her throat or look around nervously. She just walked deliberate, calm toward Lorraine's side of the table. I watched in silence, my heart caught between awe and grief. My daughter had chosen this moment. She placed the small red box gently on the tablecloth, right in front of the woman who had spent years pretending she wasn't truly part of the picture. Lorraine blinked at her smile, frozen. "What's this, sweetie?" she asked, her voice performing sweetness that didn't reach her eyes. Zia didn't answer with her usual quietness. Her voice was steady, almost clear enough to cut through bone. "Dad told me to give this to you if you ever ignored me again." And just like that, the room dropped into stillness. No more forks scraping plates. No more conversations about ski plans or garden renovations. Just a deep, uncomfortable pause. Lorraine stared at the box, then back at Zia. Her fingers hesitated before reaching for it. You'd think a gift from a child might be opened with warmth, curiosity, gratitude. But she peeled the red paper like she was suspicious, like it might bite her. When the lid came off and she saw the photo sitting on top, her fingers stilled. It was a framed picture, one I had taken the day Travis adopted Zia. He was sitting in the hospital chair with her curled in his lap, frosting on her cheeks, her little hands clutching his shirt collar. A banner in the background read, "Welcome home." Below the picture in gold lettering were 3 words, "Day One Dad." I saw Lorraine's jaw twitch. She lifted the photo and found the envelope underneath, a white legal envelope. She opened it and pulled out the adoption certificate. Her eyes skimmed it as if hoping she'd misread, as if somewhere someone had made a clerical error. They hadn't. Travis's name was there in bold print, under father, stamped, signed, legal. The air had gone thick by then, dense with every unsaid thing that had built up over years. She unfolded the letter next. Travis's handwriting filled the page. I knew it by heart, steady, clean, deliberate. It was the kind of handwriting that didn't waver. She read silently. Her lips moved, her eyes darting across the page. Her hands started to tremble. Travis didn't move. He sat beside me, stone-faced fingers laced jaw tight. The letter said, "Mom, if you're reading this, it's because Zia gave you this box. That means you crossed a line again. One I told you years ago you were already dancing on. Zia isn't just my girl, she's my daughter. Not in a way that's up for debate, not in a way that needs your permission or your approval. I adopted her because I love her, because I chose her, and because she's mine in every way that matters by heart, by law, by promise. I have watched you exclude her, diminish her, hand her scraps while others received crowns. I let it go too many times. I told myself you'd come around. That love eventually would replace whatever walls you built around your idea of real family. But if she gave you this box, it means you've made her feel like she doesn't belong. Again, and this time I won't stay silent. Zia belongs in this family. If you can't love her like the others, if you can't see her the way I do, then you don't see me either. If you can't accept that, then you are no longer welcome in our home or our lives. Love is not conditional, not here. Travis, she dropped the letter like it was burning her. The paper fluttered onto the plate in front of her, landing next to the untouched slice of cheesecake she'd raved about moments earlier. Her face was ghost white. For a heartbeat, she said nothing. She looked around, desperate for someone to validate her. Her gaze darted to her sister, her nieces, her husband. No one moved. No one saved her. That was the moment she realized this wasn't just a confrontation. This was a reckoning. She stood abruptly, her chair screeching against the floor. The sharp sound made Maddie flinch and Jonah stop mid-bite. Her face twisted. "You dare do this to me on Christmas in front of everyone." Travis stood. His voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. "You did this," he said, calm as a quiet storm. "She just finally showed you the cost." Lorraine turned to me. "You put her up to this," she hissed. "You turned my son against me." I stood finally and looked her in the eye. "No," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Your granddaughter gave you a gift. She gave you the chance to see her. You chose not to." That was all. Nothing more needed to be said. Zia sat quietly, candle still in her lap. She wasn't crying. She wasn't fidgeting. She was watching. Lorraine's gaze swept over the table once more like a queen ousted from her own court. Then she left. No apologies. No final word. Just footsteps retreating through a silent room. And we walked out too. Not in anger, not in triumph, but with peace. The car ride home was quiet. Zia held the candle in her lap. The box now sat beside her, closed again, no longer something heavy. She looked out the window, then asked, "Do you think she read the whole thing?" Travis didn't even hesitate. Every single word he said. Zia nodded, then smiled. Not a big smile, not a proud one, just settled. Like something inside her had shifted back into place. And in that moment, I realized she didn't need her grandmother to love her anymore. She had already claimed her place. That week, Lorraine didn't call, didn't text. No apology came, no excuses, just silence. A silence that once would have been filled with tension and guilt. But now it felt like fresh air. Travis didn't bring it up. He didn't need to. Something had changed in him, too. For years, he had tried to balance on a line being a son and a father, bridging two worlds that could not coexist, hoping that one day his mother would see what he saw. But now he understood. Some people can't see truth because it would destroy the stories they built their whole lives around. And our daughter, she had spoken truth with one gift. One afternoon, about a week after everything happened, a small envelope arrived. Zia's name was written in a child's handwriting, no return address. Inside was a bracelet, silver with a tiny heart charm. And a note. "I'm sorry Grandma was mean. You're my cousin forever. I picked this with my allowance, Maddie." Zia read the note twice quietly, then slipped the bracelet onto her wrist. She didn't ask if she could wear it to school. She didn't ask if it matched. She just wore it every day after that. We didn't go back to Lorraine's house. No more forced holidays. No more performative family traditions. We started new ones. Quieter, smaller, real. We made pancakes in pajamas, watched movies in pillow forts. Zia helped us bake cookies for neighbors. We danced to music in the living room without waiting for an occasion. We didn't replace what was lost. We just stopped pretending we needed it. People talk about cutting off toxic family like it's simple. Like you say a few brave words and suddenly your life is clean and peaceful. It's not. It hurts. Even when you know it's the right thing, it hurts. But what hurts more is watching your child shrink to fit someone else's comfort zone. What hurts more is watching them try harder, smile, more hope, longer, only to be handed a candle with someone else's name on it. Zia doesn't talk about that Christmas much anymore. But I kept the box. It sits in my drawer right next to her first baby shoes, her hospital bracelet, the scribbled crayon note she gave me on Mother's Day. I don't keep it to remember the pain. I keep it to remember the strength it took to face it, to face a room full of adults with no promises of being heard and still speak anyway, to give someone a chance to see you even when they probably won't, to say I belong not because someone gave you permission, but because you do. Zia taught me that. She was only 7, and she taught me what courage looks like. The week after that Christmas, our house felt unfamiliar. Not in a bad way, just quieter. Like something had been unplugged. There were no buzzing phones, no sudden guilt laden texts from Lorraine, no invitations wrapped in manipulation. The absence wasn't sharp, it didn't cut, it floated. And I noticed something else. Zia started humming again. It's strange what you remember when tension clears. Her humming had disappeared slowly over the last year, the way a candle flickers before it goes out. She'd hum while brushing her doll's hair, while putting on socks, while waiting for pancakes. It had been gone so long I hadn't noticed until it came back. That morning, she sat on the floor in her pajamas, organizing beads into colors the silver bracelet Maddie gave her resting gently on her wrist. And she was humming. I stood in the doorway, hands full of laundry, watching her exist in her own world, untouched, unguarded, free. That's when it hit me she wasn't waiting anymore. She wasn't watching the door for someone who might finally see her. She wasn't trying to earn a place she had always deserved. She was just home. A few days later, Travis came into the kitchen with a strange look on his face. Not guilt, not worry. Something quieter, like he was finally settling into something he didn't know he'd been avoiding. I called my mom, he said. I looked up from the dishes, not surprised, not angry, just listening. She didn't answer. I didn't leave a message. He paused, rubbed his jaw. I just needed to know I could call without it meaning I was letting her back in. I nodded. He sat at the table staring at the countertop like it had answers. I keep thinking about all the times I didn't say anything, he said. How I let her smile while Zia sat quietly beside kids who got all the sparkle. How I stayed silent because I didn't want to deal with the fight. You weren't ready, I said. She was, he replied. Our daughter was ready before I was. He wasn't wrong. Zia had noticed it all, the offhand comments, the unequal gifts, the long silences after her little thank yous were returned with distracted nods. But instead of turning bitter, she waited. She gave space. She gave room for adults to grow. She waited for Travis. And when she didn't want to wait anymore, she acted. We started letting go of other things too. Family events that felt like performances declined. Group chats where Zia's name never appeared muted. Holidays built on obligation instead of joy rewritten. We stopped trying to make broken patterns look like tradition. Zia surprisingly never asked to go back. She never once said she missed Grandma. She didn't cry at night. She didn't wonder what she did wrong. Because this time she wasn't the one left in confusion. Lorraine was. Zia had handed the truth back with dignity. She didn't need revenge. She didn't crave apology. She just needed space to be seen. And now that she had it, she flourished. One Saturday morning in early January, Zia came downstairs with a small paper crown on her head and a folder in her hands. She plopped it on the table beside her cereal bowl. What's this? Travis asked. My family project, she said. We're supposed to make a family tree. Travis tensed for just a second. I saw it in the way he reached for his coffee. Need help? I asked. She shrugged. I already started, but I want to glue the pictures in straight. She opened the folder. Her tree was drawn in bright green crayon with wide roots and long branches. Beside each branch, she had taped photos, some from our wedding, some from the beach, one of her holding our dog in a Santa hat. Travis and I were at the base drawn in heart shapes. Zia was right above us, arms stretched between two clouds. She looked like a superhero. There were no cousins, no grandparents, just us. She looked up and said, I want to add Auntie Nia. Is that okay? She's not by blood, I said gently. Zia blinked. She brings me soup when I'm sick. Travis laughed. Then yes, I said. Put her next to the superheroes. She smiled and reached for the glue stick. Zia's understanding of family had changed, not shrunk changed. She began asking better questions. Why do people love someone more just because they're related? Why do adults say your family when they don't act like it? We never gave her perfect answers. We didn't try to. We told her that family is not defined by holidays or who shares your DNA. It's defined by who shows up for you on your worst days when it's inconvenient, when it's hard. She accepted that. Kids are better at complex truths than we give them credit for. They feel in actions what adults try to explain in words. And they learn to trust patterns more than promises. Lorraine didn't reach out. And we didn't chase her. We weren't angry. We weren't even waiting. The silence became a boundary. Not a punishment. Not a power move. Just a simple statement. You don't get access to our lives if you can't honor who we are. And I think deep down, Lorraine understood that. She had spent her whole life building a version of family that looked right from the outside. But she forgot what it meant to belong from the inside. She forgot that children remember everything, especially the parts you never say out loud. A few months passed. Zia grew taller. She started piano lessons. She asked to redecorate her room with glow-in-the-dark stars and a sign that said, "You belong here." One night after she went to sleep, I found Travis sitting on the edge of her bed, his hand resting on her blanket. "You okay?" I whispered from the doorway. He nodded, eyes still on her. "She's okay," he said. "I keep waiting for her to ask about my mom, about Christmas, about—" "Why?" "She doesn't need to," I said. "She already got her answer." He turned toward me, his voice low. "She trusted me, even when I didn't speak up." "You showed her that love doesn't have to be loud," I said. "It just has to be there." We built new traditions. They weren't fancy. They didn't come with matching outfits or group photos. But they were real. On Zia's next birthday, we let her plan the day. She chose pancakes for dinner and a fort in the living room. We stacked cushions, brought out sleeping bags, turned off the lights, and told stories with flashlights. She invited Maddie. Yes, that Maddie. The one who sent her the bracelet. Maddie came with glittery nail polish and a card she made herself. They painted each other's nails, giggled for hours, and fell asleep holding hands. When I peeked in later, I saw the bracelet on Zia's wrist still there, catching the moonlight from the window. It reminded me connection doesn't need to be wide, just deep. At school, Zia turned in her family tree project. Her teacher, Mrs. Langston, called me a week later. "I just wanted to tell you something," she said, her voice warm. Zia's family tree made me cry. Oh, she wrote a note at the bottom. She wrote, "I used to think family was about who invited you to things. But now I think family is who cheers the loudest when you stand up for yourself." I sat on the couch phone and hand tears burning in my eyes. She was only 7, but she had learned something that takes most of us a lifetime to grasp. That being loved isn't about convincing someone to see your worth. It's about knowing it yourself and choosing people who see it without needing proof. Spring arrived slowly that year. The kind of slow that makes you feel every thaw, every unfurling petal, every breeze that doesn't carry the bite of winter. I noticed it in the way Zia walked, shoulders back, head up. She didn't flinch when people called her name. She didn't glance sideways looking for someone to pull her close or push her aside. She knew exactly where she stood. And more importantly, she knew where she didn't need to. One afternoon, we were walking home from school when she asked, "Is Grandma ever going to say sorry?" I didn't rush to answer. I looked at her, really looked, and saw that she wasn't sad. She wasn't hopeful. She was curious. "I don't know," I said. "Do you want her to—" She walked a little, kicked a pebble off the sidewalk. "I don't think I need her to anymore." And just like that, I understood she had healed past the point of waiting. We teach children to forgive, to be gracious. But sometimes we forget to teach them the other side, that they are allowed to walk away. That forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation, that choosing peace can mean choosing distance. Zia had learned that on her own, not because we told her to, because she lived through what happens when truth finally speaks. One day in early May, a letter came in the mail. It was addressed to Travis. The handwriting was familiar, precise, old fashioned cursive. Lorraine, he didn't open it right away. It sat on the kitchen counter for 2 days unopened. I didn't press, I didn't even ask. He finally picked it up late one night after Zia had gone to bed. I watched him read. His brow furrowed, his jaw clenched, then softened. He folded the letter once and slid it into the drawer without a word. Do you want to talk about it? I asked. He shook his head. Not tonight. He didn't bring it up again for a week. When he finally did, we were folding laundry together, shirts, socks, pajamas with sparkly unicorns. She didn't say sorry, he said. She said she didn't understand why I was being so cruel. She said, I let you poison me. I said nothing. I just kept folding. But she ended the letter with, I hope one day Zia forgives me for the confusion I caused her. Confusion, he repeated like the word itself tasted bitter. Then he looked at me, but I realized something when I read it. What's that? She doesn't get it, and maybe she never will. And I'm finally okay with that. We didn't need her apology because we no longer needed her permission. Zia's 8th birthday came that summer. She asked for a stargazing party. We set up blankets in the backyard, hung string lights between the trees, and downloaded an app that told us which constellations were overhead. She invited her teacher, our next door neighbor, and 3 of her closest friends. Maddie came again holding a scrapbook she had made with photos of them together. They had titled it Cousins Who Chose Each Other. When it got dark, Zia lay on her back and pointed up. That one's Lyra, she said. It means liar. It's about music. Her voice was calm, confident. She was no longer the girl who once held a candle in her lap wondering if she'd ever be enough. She was now the girl who understood that her light wasn't something someone else had to switch on. It had always been there. All she needed was the space to let it burn. Sometimes in quieter moments, I think back to that red box. It's still in the drawer beside my bed, right next to the small box that holds her first baby tooth and the faded hospital ID bracelet she wore the day she was born. The photo still rests inside the one of Travis holding her frosting on her cheeks, the caption beneath it reading, Day 1 Dad. The letter's there too, folded, worn at the edges now. Every time I see it, I remember the silence that followed Lorraine's scream. Not the scream itself, but what came after. How nothing needed to be explained anymore. How the pretending ended. How the room finally showed itself for what it was. And how in that rupture, our family, our real family, finally took shape. Lorraine never reached out to Zia directly. Never sent a note. Never visited. And while some people might say that's tragic, I've come to understand that some absences are blessings in disguise. They make space for presence, real presence, like Auntie Nia showing up with hot chocolate and board games, like Travis painting Zia's nails because she wanted dad glitter, like Maddie's handwritten notes and bracelet charms and loyalty that didn't come from tradition but from love. Family, I've learned, isn't about what name you carry. It's about who carries you. One afternoon, Travis came home with a small canvas bag. What's that? I asked. He reached inside and pulled out a wooden keepsake box. It was carved with stars and moons. For Zia, he said. I thought she should have something for her own treasures, a real box, one that holds good things. We gave it to her that night. She opened it slowly, running her fingers over the carved constellations. She didn't say much, just smiled and placed the bracelet inside first. Later, after she had gone to bed, I found her trinket box from Christmas still tucked in her closet, the one she made for Lorraine in art class, with crooked glitter letters that said, Grandma. It was empty, dusty, but she had kept it, not out of longing, but because she had learned that giving love, even to someone who doesn't return it, is never wasted. It simply teaches you who's worthy of your whole heart. A year after that Christmas, we sat down to dinner, just the 3 of us. Travis lit a candle in the center of the table. Lavender scented. We didn't buy it for the symbolism. It just happened to be what was in the pantry. Zia didn't flinch. She leaned forward and said, "Did you know lavender helps you sleep?" And then she giggled. "I bet Grandma's still awake." We all laughed. Not cruelly, not bitterly, just freely. The kind of laugh you earn when you finally let go of needing approval from people who never learned how to give it. Now, every time I hear someone say she's just a kid as a way to dismiss a child's insight or emotion, I think of that little girl in the gold dress. I think of how she stood at the head of a table full of adults, placed a red box in front of the most powerful woman in the room, and spoke the truth with her whole heart. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just named what was real. And in doing so, she gave us all permission to stop pretending. This story didn't end with reconciliation. There was no tearful hug, no reuniting over pie and apologies. And that's okay, because not every story ends the way you expect it to. Sometimes the happy ending isn't the reunion. Sometimes it's the rebuilding. It's the little girl who starts humming again. It's the husband who finally chooses clarity over comfort. It's the mother who learns that love doesn't always mean staying silent. And it's the family that begins again, not in the ashes of what burned, but in the soil of what was finally honest. Zia's 11 now. She's taller, her curls are longer, her opinions stronger. The bracelet Maddie gave her still lives in that carved wooden box. So does a tiny note she wrote to herself at age 8. I found it once when she asked me to help her clean her room. It said, "I belong. Even if they don't say it, I still do." That's what the red box gave her. Not revenge, not pity, but the right to take up space. And if that's all she ever learns from us, it's enough. So if you've ever wondered when it's okay to walk away, if you've ever stayed too long, too quiet, too polite, if you've ever told yourself this is just how they are while your heart breaks quietly behind the scenes, then I hope this story reaches you. Not to make you angry, not to stir bitterness, but to remind you you're allowed to choose peace. You're allowed to protect your children, your spirit, your joy. You're allowed to say this tradition no longer fits who we are. You're allowed to redefine family. And if you need someone to tell you that silence isn't strength when it's covering up harm, let this be that voice. Because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do isn't scream. It's give someone a box with truth inside and let them decide if they're ready to open it.